So before I begin with my report back tonight, I just want to extend my personal and from G-Rebels a deep and sincere thanks to the World Workers' Party in general, and in particular the New York City branch, for inviting G-Rebels to take part in this incredible experience with you guys. Comrades from the party were there to support us in every stage of the brigade, from filling out paperwork to doing an incredible job fundraising, to making sure everything went as smoothly as possible, and everybody in Cuba was able to have as much opportunities and experiences with the revolution and with everything that was available to us there. And it was an invaluable experience, I know, for myself and for Ariel as well. So we really want to thank you guys for doing that. So one of the best aspects of the brigade, in my opinion, was that it was por los caminos de Che. It was created and designed to take us brigadistas through that potent revolutionary history of Cuba, of Fidel, and of El Che. That we have so much to learn from there. But at the same time, it was designed to bring that revolutionary history to life. It was designed to show how Cuba and how Cuban socialism is taking those revolutionary legacies that were created and expressed so well by Che and his peers, and show us how they're in play now today, and show us how Cubans today continue to adapt their revolution to the circumstances of today. And we had many examples to witness this profound social consciousness that exists in Cuba and that exists under Cuban socialism. But for me, one of the examples that left the biggest impact was the panel discussion with the mass organizations, and hearing them describe the work that they do and the outlook that they have within their own society, within their role of the revolution. And on this panel discussion, there were 4 incredible organizations. There was the FMC, the Cuban Women's Federation, which has done incredible work throughout the revolution. There was the Federation of University Students, the Federation of Secondary School Students, and the Union of Young Communists. These organizations are all represent an extremely important factor in, as I said, in doing exactly what the brigade was designed to do, and taking the legacies, the powerful example of the Cuban Revolution, and continuing to apply that to everyday life in Cuba, and to everyday to the communities that they represent. So created within 1 year after the revolution, the FMC, the Cuban Women's Federation, is a non-governmental organization that has been and continues to be a huge part of creating and sustaining Cuban socialism, as well as empowering and liberating women within Cuba. As the comrade from the FMC explained to us, they see their mission as a dual battle. One of empowering themselves personally, of empowering the women within the organization, but in also educating the society of the injustices that prevail and that have been created through the patriarchal hierarchy. And although the revolution has done incredible things for women, as it has for all the oppressed of society, the oppression of women, something that goes back truly thousands of years, is not something that can be wiped away within a 60-year revolution. And this is something that, as we know, has to be pointed out time and time again, and takes the role of an organized group of women to be able to express the needs that they see need to be brought about in society, and the changes that they see need to be made. And part of this strategy that they have, which I thought was incredible, and something that I think I see has a hard time getting a lot of traction within the United States, is that they work within every aspect of society, within every sector of society, and with the entire family as a whole. So this is and as these women know, the role of eliminating sexism, eliminating misogyny, eliminating the patriarchal hierarchy does not fall on the woman. It falls on the society as a whole. It falls on the man. It falls on the youth. It falls on the students, and it falls on the people who will be making decisions. And in that, the FMC makes a point to work with, as I said, every sector of society, with every member of the family, and informing them of how their particular role can influence this, the actions that they make, the biases and these unjust things that may have been passed down to them, how they can overcome them personally and how they can contribute to the society in bettering that for all. But the FMC also works on a national scale, although they're active as alongside the CDRs within every neighborhood, within every community on that people-to-people basis. They're also very active on a national scale. 21% of the women in Cuba are members of the FMC, and as such, they are nationwide, and they have an incredible amount of power and incredible platform that they can provide for women in Cuba to advocate for women's liberation and for the injustices that they see arise. Part of this is the state has recognized their incredible influence and the incredible things that they have done, and as such they consult the FMC whenever any legislation, any policies, anything regarding women is going to be drafted within Cuba. The FMC or representatives from them are always a part of that drafting process and always a part of informing the heads of state and different influencers of what the women's perspective is and what their personal input is, through what they've collected from women all over Cuba and how to best implement these changes. And as well, in addition to that, they also, of course, place pressure on the government. And whenever there is something that's put forth by women, put forward by whether it be in a community or as a nationwide thing, they take up that that question themselves, and they press the government, they press their local politicians to bring forth the changes that they see need to be made. And they've had incredible success in doing this so far in the 60 years of the revolution. Today, over half of the National Assembly of Cuba is made up of women. "62% of the seats in provincial governments are held by women, along with over 70% of the highest ranking positions within education and health services are made up by women, and these are two areas which have traditionally been, which women have traditionally been excluded from in Cuban history. So the representative from the FMC expressed to us that was a great, something they took great pride in, and something that of course has a huge influence over the lives and the development of women within society. And I think concerning the current regime that's in power in the United States and the remarks we've all heard said and excused so easily by society, the women in Cuba and the FMC really provide a stark and an obvious contrast between the battle for women's liberation under socialism and under capitalism. But in addition to the FMC, the youth and the student organizations also left a huge impact on me. This was something that I was able to draw a lot of personal comparisons between, being a young student myself. And sadly, I see so much ignorance within my own generation, so much confusion and just loss of understanding of their role in society and of the importance of a society to the individual. Excuse me. Whereas in Cuba, the youth know their role, they know their place, they know their powerful history, they know their importance, and they know their value to society. And this is something that, particularly with the students, is such a powerful, I think, exemplification of socialism and what that can do to liberate every sector of society. Schools in Cuba aren't designed to be businesses, to be institutions, bureaucratic institutions that produce cogs to go into this imperialist machinery as they do here. Students in Cuba and the youth in Cuba are taught to think for themselves. They're taught, rightfully so, that they are tremendously important in the revolution and in society. And obviously they are the future of society. And as such, it falls on them to not just take these legacies of the revolution and apply them to the current movement, but to continue fighting in the face of imperialism, fighting in the face of especially a new wave of imperialist propaganda, which is able to come into Cuba through the internet and through all of these, the glittering gold of capitalism that always so easily tries to distract the youth. And the youth is at a stage in their lives which is so vulnerable, so easy. You're finding yourself, you're finding your role within society, within your family, and it's often easy to be led astray and to become disillusioned with things, as so many do here in the States. But there in Cuba, organizations such as the FEU, the Union of Young Communists, they really work, and they take this as a very, very big aspect of their role within Cuban society, is to continuously educate the youth and empower the youth. And that means various things. It means teaching the youth their history. I mean, this is, at this point, people my age in Cuba have grown up under the blockade. All they know is the blockade, and for the most part, all they know is the blockade post-Soviet Union, growing up through the special period, in which it can be very easy for this imperialist propaganda to come in and distort the image of what is truly going on. So these youth continuously go out and work with one another, work with children, all the way through, as you can see, through high school, through college, and beyond college, to help develop people and help them not just explain to them a history, not just talk at them, but to dialogue alongside them, to talk with them, to let youth explain perhaps their own issues they may see arise, or the areas they see they can need improvement, and explain to them why certain things exist and how they can become empowered and take those feelings they feel and apply them to their society to continue perfecting Cuban socialism and Cuban revolution. As I said, the youth in Cuba truly know that they're the future, and how important that is. And I think this is something that's become, we were able to witness clearly as we were there. And as Christian brought up, Raul was preparing, Cuba in general is preparing for this new wave to usher in the new generation of revolutionary leadership, to have this kind of era that had fought, for the revolution, to bring it about. They're transitioning out, and it's more important than ever, I think, to really pass the baton on to that new generation and to be able to empower them to continue fighting for Cuban socialism and to continue allowing Cuba to be the beacon of hope and beacon of light and assistance it is for all of Latin America and for the world. So in conclusion, I just want to reflect on all these organizations. And I said, to me, it was something incredibly impactful, something that really stuck with me. They're all powerful examples of how Cuban society and how the Cuban people have been able to develop under Cuban socialism, how the subservient mindset that capitalism produces and the individualism and the avarice that capitalism poisons the individual within our society is non-existent there. Cuba, well, I think these organizations in Cuba, and particularly the youth and the women and their struggles, have proved, as Cuba has always proved, that a better world is truly possible, and it is possible through and only through socialism.